20 years together, and my wife was cheating, playing a whole different game.
The pregnancy test stared back at me from Emily's nightstand drawer, like a neon sign advertising my own stupidity. 2 pink lines. A miracle, she'd called it last week, tears streaming down her perfectly contoured cheeks. After all these years of trying, Nick, it's finally happening. Except we hadn't been trying. We'd been using protection religiously because Emily claimed she wasn't ready for another baby after Sophie and Mia. And we certainly hadn't been intimate enough lately for any miraculous conception to occur under our roof. I'm Nick Callahan, 41, CEO of SecureGuard Systems, and apparently the world's most expensive betrayed man. 20 years of marriage, and my wife just handed me a pregnancy test like it was a lottery ticket we'd won together. The only problem? I wasn't even playing the same game. My phone buzzed. A text from Emily. At yoga class, don't wait up, XOXO. Yoga class, right, at 10 p.m. on a Thursday. With her instructor Marcus Kent, no doubt. Oh, the same Marcus who drove a cherry red Porsche and had been giving Emily private lessons for the past 6 months. The same Marcus who'd been eye-screwing my wife at every neighborhood barbecue while I stood there like an idiot, flipping burgers and pretending not to notice. I sat on our king-sized bed, the one I'd been sleeping alone in for months, and laughed. Actually laughed. The sound echoed off our vaulted ceilings like a bang in a cathedral. Marriage, the world's most expensive subscription service, and I'd apparently been paying for premium content while getting the basic package. The house felt different now. Our 5,000-square-foot colonial in Meadowbrook Estates, complete with its manicured lawn and 3-car garage, suddenly seemed like an expensive prison. Every family photo on the walls looked like evidence in a fraud case. Every piece of furniture we'd picked out together felt like a lie wrapped in Egyptian cotton. I walked downstairs to my home office and pulled out a yellow legal pad. Old school, but sometimes the best plans start with pen and paper. At the top, I wrote, Emily's game plan. Below that, my rules. She thought she was playing chess. I was about to flip the board. 3 days later, I was still playing the devoted husband role. Oscar-worthy performance, if I do say so myself. Coffee in bed, foot rubs, the whole 9 yards. Emily ate it up like chocolate cake, posting Instagram stories about her amazing hubby while texting someone else under the table. You're being so sweet lately, she said over breakfast, her phone face down beside her organic kale smoothie. What's gotten into you? Just happy about the baby, I replied, buttering my toast with surgical precision. 20 years of marriage, and we're still making magic happen. She blushed, actually blushed. The performance was mutual, apparently. Sophie and Mia sat across from us, our 18 and 16-year-old daughters scrolling through their phones with the practiced indifference of teenagers. They'd inherited Emily's blonde hair and my stubborn streak, a combination that had made the last few years particularly entertaining. Dad, can I borrow the BMW tonight? Sophie asked without looking up. Jessica's having a party. Ask your mother, I said automatically. She's the social coordinator in this family. Emily beamed. She loved being in charge, loved having control over every decision from dinner plans to vacation destinations. It was one of the things that had attracted me to her 23 years ago, her confidence, her ability to take charge. Now it just felt like living with a beautiful dictator. My phone buzzed. Tom Morrison, my COO and former police detective, texting about a client meeting. Tom was the only person who knew about my suspicions, and even he didn't know the full extent of what I'd discovered. Business calls, I said, standing up. Tom needs me at the office early. Emily nodded absently, already back to her phone, probably texting Marcus about their next yoga session. I kissed her forehead, tasting her expensive moisturizer and cheaper lies. Love you, babe? Love you too, she murmured, thumb already flying across her screen. At the office, Tom was waiting with coffee and his trademark skeptical expression. 48 years old, built like a linebacker with gray eyes that had seen too much during his 15 years with the Chicago PD. He joined SecureGuard 5 years ago when his marriage fell apart, and we'd bonded over our shared appreciation for bourbon and bad decisions. You look like crap, he said by way of greeting. Good morning to you too, sunshine. I closed my office door and activated the white noise generator, a habit from our government contract days. What do you know about private investigators? Tom raised an eyebrow. The kind that follow cheating spouses, or the kind that find missing persons? The first kind. Jesus, Nick, you sure about this? I pulled out my phone and showed him the pregnancy test photo I'd taken. She's 3 months along. We haven't had sex in 4 months. You do the math. Tom whistled low. Marcus? That's my working theory. I sat behind my desk, surrounded by awards and photos from happier times. But I need proof. Real proof. The kind that holds up in court. You thinking divorce? I'm thinking scorched earth. Tom was quiet for a long moment, studying my face. You know I've got contacts. Guys who do this kind of work, clean, professional, legally bulletproof. Set it up. Nick, you sure you want to go down this road? Once you know for certain, there's no going back. I thought about Emily's performance at breakfast, her loving wife act while she carried another man's child. I thought about 20 years of building a life together, of late nights working to afford the house she wanted, the cars she needed, the lifestyle she demanded. I thought about our daughters, who would have to choose sides in the war that was coming. I'm already past the point of no return, I said. Now I just need ammunition. That evening, Emily announced she was going out with her friends. Girls' night at the new wine bar downtown. She wore a black dress that hugged her still flat stomach and heels that cost more than most people's rent. Don't wait up, she said, checking her reflection in the hallway mirror. Tara's going through her divorce drama, so we might be out late. Tara Mitchell, Emily's best friend and fellow suburban princess, divorced 3 times, currently working on husband number 4. She collected alimony payments like some people collected stamps. Have fun, I said, meaning it. The more rope I gave Emily, the more likely she was to hang herself with it. After she left, I opened a bottle of Macallan and sat in my study, surrounded by 20 years of memories. Wedding photos, vacation pictures, images of our girls growing up in this house. All of it felt like evidence in someone else's life now. My phone buzzed at 11:47 p.m. Emily texting from what appeared to be a hotel room. Staying at Tara's tonight. She's really upset. See you tomorrow. Love you. Except Tara lived in a house, not a hotel room with generic beige walls and industrial carpeting. I poured another scotch and opened my laptop. Time to start documenting everything. The private investigator Tom recommended was a woman named Janet Pierce, mid-50s, former FBI, with the kind of quiet competence that came from years of catching people in lies. We met at a coffee shop in downtown Chicago, away from Meadowbrook's gossip network. Your wife's not particularly careful, Janet said, sliding a manila envelope across the table. 3 weeks of surveillance, and she's given us enough material for a documentary. I opened the envelope and immediately wished I hadn't. Photos of Emily and Marcus at restaurants, holding hands in his Porsche, entering and leaving hotels. The timestamps showed a pattern. Every Tuesday and Thursday, like clockwork. There's more, Janet said. Hotel receipts, credit card records, phone logs. She's been using the joint account to pay for everything. Either she's incredibly stupid or she wants to get caught. Emily's many things, but stupid isn't one of them, I said, studying a photo of her kissing Marcus in the parking lot of the Marriott. She's testing me, seeing how much she can get away with. Well, she's gotten away with plenty. The pregnancy timeline matches up with when they started getting physical. DNA test will confirm it, but the circumstantial evidence is overwhelming. I closed the envelope. What about him? Marcus? Married, 2 kids, wife doesn't know. He's been telling people at the tennis club that he's bagging the CEO's wife. Real charmer, this one. Marcus Kent, 44 years old, former college tennis player who'd never quite made it professional. Now he spent his days teaching bored housewives how to improve their backhand while improving their marriages in other ways. He drove a leased Porsche, lived in a rental townhouse, and apparently thought sleeping with my wife was some kind of achievement worth bragging about. I want everything, I told Janet. Phone records, financial information, social media activity, the works. And I want to know about his wife, Ava, right? She deserves to know what her husband's been up to. Janet nodded. This is going to get messy, Nick. Are you prepared for that? Messy is what I do for a living, I said. I've been cleaning up other people's security problems for 15 years. Time to handle my own. That night, Emily came home late again, claiming she'd been at book club. She smelled like expensive cologne and lies. I was in bed pretending to read a Tom Clancy novel when she slipped under the covers beside me. How was book club? I asked. Oh, you know how it is. Linda picked another depressing literary fiction thing. We spent more time talking about our kids than the actual book. She was getting better at lying, or maybe I was just getting better at hearing the truth underneath. Her phone was face down on the nightstand, and she kept glancing at it like she was expecting an important call. Everything okay? I asked. You seemed distracted. Just tired. The pregnancy's really taking it out of me. She placed my hand on her stomach, and I felt like I was touching evidence in a crime scene. The doctor says everything's progressing normally. That's great, honey. I can't wait to meet our little miracle. The words tasted like poison, but Emily smiled and curled up against me. Within minutes, she was asleep, her phone buzzing softly with incoming texts she couldn't answer. I lay there in the dark, listening to my wife breathe and feeling like a stranger in my own life. Tomorrow, I'd start phase 2 of my plan. Tonight, I'd practice being the last person Emily would ever make a fool of again. The Meadowbrook Tennis Club's annual charity gala was the social event of the season. 200 of the suburb's most prominent residents dressed to the nines, pretending to care about underprivileged children while gossiping about each other's affairs. Emily had been planning her outfit for weeks. You look beautiful, I told her as we walked into the ballroom, and I meant it. She wore a midnight blue gown that showed off her figure without revealing her pregnancy. Her blonde hair swept up in an elegant chignon. She looked like the woman I'd fallen in love with 23 years ago before life got complicated. Thank you, baby, she said, squeezing my arm. Oh, look, there's Tara and the girls. Emily's inner circle was already assembled near the bar. Tara Mitchell, Chloe Henderson, and Lisa Park. 3 women who'd perfected the art of looking supportive while sharpening their knives. They air-kissed Emily and nodded politely at me. The way you acknowledge furniture that serves a purpose but isn't particularly interesting. Nick, you don't mind if we steal Emily for a bit, do you? Tara asked. Girl talk? Of course not, I said. I'll be at the bar if you need me. I watched them huddle together, phones already out, probably planning their next adventure in infidelity. Emily glanced back at me once, smiled, and then disappeared into their circle of whispered secrets. The bar was crowded, but I found Tom nursing a bourbon and looking uncomfortable in his rented tux. You clean up nice, I told him. I feel like a penguin, he replied. Please tell me you're not planning to cause a scene tonight. Me? I'm just here to support underprivileged children and enjoy my wife's company. Tom gave me a look that said he'd heard that tone before, usually right before someone did something spectacularly stupid. Nick, relax. I'm not going to do anything dramatic. Tonight's about gathering intelligence. As if on cue, Marcus Kent appeared across the room, looking like he'd stepped out of a country club catalog. Perfectly pressed tuxedo, hair styled just so, the kind of artificial confidence that came from sleeping with other men's wives. He was talking to a group of women, including his own wife, Ava, a petite brunette who looked at him like he hung the moon. There's our boy, Tom muttered. I watched Marcus work the room, shaking hands and flashing his practice smile. He was good at this, the charming tennis pro, everyone's favorite instructor. When he spotted Emily across the room, his face lit up like a slot machine hitting jackpot. Excuse me, I told Tom. Time to go mingle. I worked my way through the crowd, stopping to chat with clients and neighbors, playing the role of successful businessman and devoted husband. But I was really tracking Emily and Marcus, watching their careful dance around each other. They were good, no obvious contact, no lingering stares, but I knew what to look for now. The moment came during the silent auction. Emily was examining a spa weekend package when Marcus appeared beside her, close enough to whisper in her ear. She laughed at whatever he said, touching his arm briefly before stepping away. To anyone watching casually, it looked like innocent conversation. But I saw the electricity between them, the practiced closeness of 2 people who knew each other's bodies. Beautiful evening, isn't it? A voice said behind me. I turned to find Ava Kent, Marcus's wife, holding a glass of white wine and smiling politely. Up close, she was prettier than I'd realized. Dark hair, intelligent brown eyes, the kind of understated elegance that came from good breeding rather than expensive styling. It is, I agreed. Great turnout for a good cause. Your wife looks lovely tonight, she said, glancing toward Emily. That color is perfect on her. Thank you. You look beautiful yourself. Marcus is a lucky man. Something flickered across her face. Too quick to identify, but it was there. He tells me you 2 have met at some of the neighborhood events. A few times. He seems like a good guy. Great tennis player. Yes, he's very dedicated to his work. The way she said it made me wonder exactly how much Ava knew about her husband's extracurricular activities. He's been working late a lot lately. Private lessons, you know. I'm sure he's just trying to build his client base, I said. It's tough being self-employed. Yes, she said quietly. It certainly is. We stood there for a moment, two spouses making polite conversation while our partners carried on their affair 20 feet away. I found myself liking Ava Kent, which made what was coming even more unfortunate. "Well," she said finally, "I should get back to Marcus. He gets anxious when I wander off too long." "Of course. Nice talking with you, Ava." She walked away, and I watched her rejoin her husband, who immediately put his arm around her waist in a gesture that looked possessive rather than affectionate. Emily was still at the silent auction, now talking to Tara about something that required animated hand gestures. My phone buzzed. A text from Janet Pierce. "Package delivered to your office. Everything you requested." Phase 2 was about to begin. The rest of the evening passed in a blur of small talk and forced smiles. Emily was in her element, working the room like the social butterfly she'd always been. She barely spoke to me except to introduce me to people I'd already met or ask me to get her another drink. I was furniture again, useful when needed, invisible otherwise. During the drive home, she was unusually quiet, staring out the passenger window at the passing streetlights. "Good evening?" I asked. Raised a lot of money for the kids. See anyone interesting?" She turned to look at me, and for a moment I thought she might actually tell me the truth. Instead, she smiled and reached over to squeeze my hand. "Just the usual crowd," she said. "Same people, same conversations. You know how it is." I did know how it is. I just hadn't realized how much of it was lies. Janet's package contained enough evidence to destroy a small government. Hotel receipts dating back 6 months, phone records showing hundreds of calls and texts between Emily and Marcus, credit card statements revealing a pattern of expensive lunches and shopping trips. But the real bombshell was the social media intelligence. Screenshots of private messages between Emily and her friends discussing her affair in explicit detail. "He has no idea," Emily had written to Tara 3 weeks ago. "Nick's so obsessed with work, he barely notices I exist. Marcus makes me feel alive again." Tara's response, "You go, girl. Life's too short for boring husbands. Just be careful. Divorce can get messy if they find out about the side action." "Not planning on divorce," Emily replied. "Planning on having my cake and eating it too. Nick's a good provider, but Marcus is, well, let's just say he provides other things." There were dozens of messages like this, each one driving the knife deeper into 20 years of marriage. Emily had been sharing intimate details of our relationship, our fights, our finances, our bed life, with her friends like it was entertainment. I was the punchline in jokes I didn't even know were being told. The worst part was reading about the pregnancy. Emily knew it wasn't mine. She'd been tracking her cycle, knew exactly when conception occurred, and it coincided with a weekend girls' trip to Wisconsin that was actually a romantic getaway with Marcus. "Positive pregnancy test," she'd texted to her group chat. "This changes everything. Nick will never leave me now, and Marcus is going to flip when I tell him he's going to be a daddy." Marcus's response, according to Janet's surveillance of his phone, was less enthusiastic. "Are you sure it's mine? This is screwed up, Em. I can't handle a baby right now." "Don't worry," Emily had replied. "Nick thinks it's his miracle baby. We can figure out the rest later." I sat in my office at midnight, surrounded by evidence of my wife's betrayal, and felt something cold settle in my chest. Not anger. Anger was too hot, too immediate. This was something else, something calculating. I opened my laptop and started typing. Project Homecoming, I titled the document. Below that, I began outlining my strategy. If Emily wanted to play games, I'd show her what a real player looked like. The next morning, I was making coffee when Sophie wandered into the kitchen, still in her pajamas, and looking like she'd been hit by a truck. "Late night?" I asked. "Jessica's party went longer than expected." She collapsed into a chair and put her head down on the table. "Is Mom up yet?" "Still sleeping. Pregnancy's making her tired." Sophie lifted her head and gave me a look I couldn't quite read. "Dad, can I ask you something?" "Sure, sweetheart. Are you and Mom okay? I mean, really okay?" The question caught me off guard. Sophie was 18, heading to Northwestern in the fall, smart as hell and twice as observant. I'd been so focused on hiding my investigation from Emily that I hadn't considered what our daughters might be seeing. "Why do you ask?" "I don't know. You guys just seem different lately. Like you're both acting instead of just being yourselves." Out of the mouths of babes. "Marriage is complicated, Soph. Sometimes people go through rough patches. Is that what this is? A rough patch?" I looked at my daughter, really looked at her. She had Emily's eyes but my stubborn chin, and right now she looked worried in a way that made my chest tight. Whatever happened between Emily and me, Sophie and Mia would be caught in the crossfire. I love you and your sister more than anything in this world, I said. Whatever happens, that will never change. That's not really an answer, Dad. It's the only answer I can give you right now. She nodded like she understood, even though I knew she didn't. How could she? I barely understood it myself. Emily appeared a few minutes later, looking perfectly put together despite her claims of exhaustion. She kissed Sophie's forehead and squeezed my shoulder as she passed, playing the loving wife and mother while carrying another man's child. "Good morning, my beautiful family," she said, and I wondered if she actually believed her own performance. My phone buzzed, Tom texting about a client emergency that required my immediate attention. Perfect timing. "Duty calls," I said, finishing my coffee. "I'll probably be late tonight." "Again?" Emily asked, and there was something in her voice. Disappointment? Relief? "You've been working so much lately. Big client, big problems. You know how it is." She nodded and went back to her phone, already planning her day around my absence, probably texting Marcus about an impromptu tennis lesson. At the office, Tom was waiting with more bad news. "Your wife's getting sloppy," he said, handing me a tablet with social media screenshots. "Look at this." Emily had posted Instagram stories from her book club the night before, but the location tags showed she was at the Marriott downtown, the same hotel where she'd been meeting Marcus. Worse, one of the photos showed a man's hand reaching for a wine glass, and I recognized Marcus's distinctive silver watch. "She's either incredibly stupid or she wants to get caught," Tom said. "Neither. She's testing me, seeing how much she can get away with before I notice." "And when you do notice?" I thought about Sophie's question that morning, about the rough patch Emily and I were supposedly going through. My daughter was smart enough to sense something was wrong, but not experienced enough to understand what it meant. "Then the real game begins," I said. That evening, I came home to find Emily in the kitchen, cooking dinner and humming to herself. She seemed genuinely happy, which made everything worse somehow. "How was your day?" she asked, stirring something that smelled like heaven. "Productive. Yours?" "Oh, you know, pregnancy appointment, lunch with Tara, boring stuff." She turned to smile at me, and for a moment I saw the woman I'd married. Beautiful, confident, alive. "Dr. Morrison says everything looks perfect. We should be able to find out the Zex soon." The Zex of Marcus Kent's baby growing inside my wife's body while she lied to my face about whose child it was. "That's wonderful, honey," I said, kissing her cheek and tasting her lies. "I can't wait to find out if it's a boy or girl." "Me too," she said, turning back to her cooking. "I have a feeling it's going to be a boy. Don't ask me why. Just mother's intuition. Or father's genetics, I thought, but didn't say." After dinner, Emily announced she was going to bed early. Pregnancy exhaustion again. I waited until I heard her shower running, then went to my study and opened the laptop. Time to start Phase 3 of Project Homecoming. I began with Marcus's wife. Ava Kent and I met for coffee at a Starbucks in the next town over, away from Meadowbrook's surveillance network of bored housewives and gossiping tennis players. She looked nervous, clutching her purse like a lifeline, and glancing around like she expected paparazzi to jump out from behind the pastry display. "Thank you for agreeing to meet," I said, settling into the chair across from her. "I know this is awkward." "Your message was concerning," she said carefully. "You mentioned Marcus and something I needed to know." I'd agonized over how to approach this. Ava Kent seemed like a decent person caught in her husband's web of lies, and I genuinely felt bad about what I was about to do to her world. But she deserved the truth, and I needed an ally. "I'm going to show you some things," I said, pulling out a manila envelope. "They're going to be difficult to see. I'm sorry about that." Her face went pale, but she nodded. "Show me." I started with the hotel photos. Marcus and Emily entering and leaving together, kissing in parking lots, holding hands over expensive dinners. Ava's face went through a series of expressions: confusion, recognition, pain, and finally a cold anger that reminded me of looking in a mirror. "How long?" she asked quietly. 6 months that we can prove, possibly longer." She studied a photo of Marcus nuzzling Emily's neck outside the Marriott. He told me he was working late, private lessons with demanding clients. In a way, he was. Ava laughed, but there was no humor in it. "I knew something was wrong. He's been different. Distracted, secretive, defensive when I asked about his schedule. But I thought maybe he was planning something special for our anniversary." "When's your anniversary?" "Next month. 15 years. She set down the photos like they were contaminated. 15 years of marriage. And this is what I get. We sat in silence for a moment, two betrayed spouses sharing the unique pain of discovering that the person you trusted most had been lying to your face for months. "There's more," I said gently. "My wife is pregnant. The timing suggests it's Marcus's child." Ava closed her eyes. "Of course it is. Because why would he just have an affair when he could create a permanent reminder of it?" "I'm sorry, Ava. I really am." "Don't apologize. You're not the one who's been screwing my husband." She opened her eyes and looked at me with new focus. "What do you want from me?" "Honestly, I'm not sure yet. I'm still figuring out my next move." "Well, when you figure it out, let me know. Because Marcus is about to discover that 15 years of marriage to a lawyer's daughter taught me a few things about revenge." I liked Ava Kent. I liked her a lot. That evening, Emily was getting ready for another girls' night, this time at a new wine bar in the city. She wore a black dress that hugged her curves and heels that cost more than most people's car payments. "You look incredible," I said, and meant it. Even knowing what I knew, Emily was still beautiful enough to stop traffic. "Thank you, baby." She kissed my cheek, leaving a lipstick mark that felt like evidence. "Don't wait up. Tara's going through drama with husband number 4, so we might be out late." "Tell Tara I said hi," I replied, knowing she'd be too busy with Marcus to deliver any messages. After she left, I poured a glass of bourbon and called Tom. "How'd it go with the wife?" he asked without preamble. "She's on board. Turns out Marcus has been lying to her about his schedule for months. You think she'll keep quiet? For now. She's smart enough to know that revenge is a dish best served cold." "And Emily?" I looked out the window at our perfectly manicured lawn, our 3-car garage, our 5,000 square foot monument to suburban success. "Emily's about to learn that she's not the only one who can play games." My phone buzzed with a text from my wife. "Having so much fun. Love you." The photo showed her and Tara at what appeared to be a crowded bar, both of them laughing at something off camera. But I could see the edge of a man's jacket in the frame, and I recognized the fabric. Marcus had worn that same jacket to the tennis club gala. I texted back, "Have fun. See you tomorrow." Then I opened my laptop and began typing. If Emily wanted to document her affair on social media, I'd help her tell the whole story. The next morning, Sophie found me in the kitchen, making coffee and looking like I'd been hit by a truck. "Rough night, Dad?" "Couldn't sleep. Too much caffeine." She gave me that look again, the one that said she knew more than she was letting on. "Mom's not up yet?" "Still sleeping. Late night with the girls." "Right, the girls." Sophie poured herself orange juice and sat down across from me. "Dad, can I tell you something?" "Always." "Jessica's older sister works at that wine bar Mom was supposedly at last night. She said she didn't see Mom there at all." My coffee cup stopped halfway to my mouth. "What?" "I wasn't trying to spy or anything. Jessica just mentioned it when I asked about the place. Said her sister would have remembered seeing Mom because she's always talking about how beautiful the tennis wives are." I set down my coffee and really looked at my daughter. 18 years old, heading to college in the fall, and apparently more observant than I'd given her credit for. "Sophie, I'm not stupid, Dad. I know something's going on. Mom's been acting weird for months. You've been working late constantly, and now she's lying about where she's going." She took a deep breath. "Are you guys getting divorced?" The question hung in the air like a grenade with the pin pulled. I could lie, keep playing the game, protect her from the ugly truth a little longer. Or I could treat her like the adult she was about to become. "I don't know," I said finally. "Things are complicated right now." "Because of the baby?" "Among other things." Sophie nodded like she'd expected that answer. "Whatever happens, I want you to know that Mia and I love you, both of you. But we're not little kids anymore, Dad. We can handle the truth." "I know you can, sweetheart. I just wish you didn't have to." She reached across the table and squeezed my hand. "We're tougher than you think. We get that from you." After Sophie left for school, I sat in my kitchen surrounded by 20 years of family memories and felt something shift inside me. My daughters deserved better than this. They deserved parents who were honest with them and with each other. They deserved a father who fought for his family instead of just accepting betrayal. Emily wanted to play games? Fine. But she was about to learn that I'd been playing a different game entirely. Time for the gloves to come off. The Meadowbrook Country Club's tennis courts were busy on Thursday afternoon. The usual collection of suburban wives working on their backhands and their tans. Emily was there, of course, wearing a designer tennis outfit that probably cost more than most people's monthly salary. She was taking a lesson with Marcus, though from where I sat in the clubhouse, it looked more like foreplay with rackets. I'd been watching for 20 minutes, documenting everything with my phone's camera. Emily and Marcus thought they were being discreet, but they moved around each other with the practiced closeness of lovers. A touch here, a whispered comment there, standing just a little too close during instruction. "Enjoying the show?" a voice asked behind me. I turned to find Ava Kent, looking perfectly put together in a way that suggested she'd spent considerable time preparing for this moment. She wore a simple black dress and heels, her dark hair pulled back in a severe bun that made her look like she meant business. "Ava, I didn't know you were a member here." "I'm not, but they have a guest policy, and I thought it was time I saw my husband's workplace." She sat down beside me and followed my gaze to the courts. "They're not very subtle, are they? Apparently they don't think they need to be." We watched in silence as Marcus adjusted Emily's grip on her racket, his hands lingering on hers longer than necessary. Emily laughed at something he whispered, the sound carrying across the court like fingernails on a chalkboard. "I filed for divorce yesterday," Ava said conversationally. "My lawyer thinks I have an excellent case for infidelity. Amazing what a good private investigator can dig up. I'm sorry it came to that." "Don't be. 15 years with Marcus taught me that some people don't deserve second chances." She opened her purse and pulled out a thick manila envelope. "I brought you a present." Inside were financial records, Marcus's bank statements, credit card bills, tax returns. The picture they painted was of a man living well beyond his means, funding his lifestyle with money from sources that weren't immediately clear. "He's been skimming from the tennis club," Ava explained. "Private lessons paid in cash that never got reported, equipment purchases that were inflated, court rental fees that went into his personal account. He's been stealing for years." "How much?" "Conservative estimate, about $50,000 over the past 3 years. Enough to make it a felony." I looked at the documents, then back at Emily and Marcus on the court. "You're giving this to me?" "I'm giving it to someone who might know what to do with it. My divorce will be messy enough without adding criminal charges. But if someone else happened to discover this information and felt compelled to report it..." She shrugged elegantly. "Ava, you don't have to..." "Yes, I do. Marcus destroyed my marriage, but he's not going to destroy my life. I have 2 kids to think about, and they deserve better than a father who's a thief and an adulterer." We sat there watching our spouses carry on their affair in broad daylight, 2 people who'd been betrayed by the people they trusted most. There was something almost peaceful about it. The calm before the storm. "What's your plan?" Ava asked. "I'm still working on it, but it's going to be comprehensive." "Good. Marcus deserves everything that's coming to him." She stood up and smoothed down her dress. "I should go. I have a meeting with my lawyer in an hour." "Ava?" She turned back to me. "Thank you. For everything. I know it couldn't have been easy." "Easy?" She smiled, but it didn't reach her eyes. "Nick, destroying the man who destroyed my marriage is going to be the easiest thing I've ever done." After she left, I stayed and watched Emily and Marcus finish their lesson. They were getting careless, touching each other openly, laughing like they were the only 2 people in the world. Emily's hand rested on her still flat stomach as Marcus said something that made her beam with happiness. My phone buzzed. A text from Emily. "Tennis running late. Home by 6. Love you." I looked at the timestamp. She'd sent the message while Marcus was kissing her neck behind the equipment shed. That evening, Emily came home glowing with what she claimed was exercise endorphins. She chattered about her lesson, about how much her backhand was improving, about how Marcus was such a patient instructor. "He really knows how to bring out the best in people," she said over dinner. "I feel like I'm finally reaching my potential." "That's wonderful, honey," I replied, cutting my steak with surgical precision. "It's important to have someone who believes in you." Sophie and Mia exchanged glances across the table. They could feel the tension even if they didn't understand its source. "How was work, Dad?" Mia asked, clearly trying to change the subject. "Interesting day. We're working on a new case involving financial fraud. Amazing how people think they can steal money without getting caught." Emily's fork paused halfway to her mouth. "That sounds serious." "It is. White-collar crime might seem victimless, but it destroys lives, families, marriages, children's futures, all ruined because someone thought they were smarter than everyone else. "I'm sure they'll get what's coming to them," Emily said, but her voice sounded strained. "Oh, they will. The evidence is overwhelming. When this goes public, it's going to destroy everything they've built." After dinner, Emily excused herself to take a bath. Pregnancy exhaustion again. I helped Mia with her calculus homework while Sophie practiced piano, the sounds of our normal family life providing cover for the war I was planning. My phone rang at 10 p.m., Tom calling from his car. "We have a problem," he said without preamble. "What kind of problem?" "The kind where your wife just met with a divorce attorney. Janet's contact at the firm says Emily's claiming emotional misuse, financial control, the whole victim playbook." I closed my eyes and felt the last piece of my marriage crumble into dust. She's filing first. Looks like it. And Nick, she's asking for everything. Full custody, the house, alimony, the works. She's claiming you're an unfit father and a controlling husband. Based on what evidence? That's the thing. She doesn't need evidence for the initial filing, just allegations. By the time you prove them false, the narrative's already set. I thought about Emily upstairs in our bathtub, probably texting Marcus about her legal strategy. She played me perfectly. The loving wife act, the pregnancy announcement, even the careless affair. All of it designed to make me look like the jealous, controlling husband when the truth came out. "She's not just cheating," I said quietly. "She's been planning this for months. The affair, the pregnancy, the divorce. It's all part of the same game. What do you want to do?" I looked around my study at the photos of our family vacations and the awards from my business success. 20 years of building a life together, and Emily was about to torch all of it for a tennis pro and a payday. "I want to win," I said. "Nick, no, Tom, I'm done playing defense. Emily wants to destroy me? Fine. But she's about to learn that I didn't build a security company by being a victim." I hung up and opened my laptop. Time to show Emily what a real game looked like. The gloves weren't just coming off. They were about to be thrown down. I filed for divorce at 8 a.m. the next morning, knocking Emily to the courthouse by exactly 3 hours. My lawyer, Patricia Vance, a shark in Armani who'd handled my business legal work for years, had worked through the night preparing a filing that would make Emily's head spin. Infidelity, fraud, emotional abandonment. Patricia ticked off the charges on her manicured fingers. Plus, we're requesting DNA testing for the child she's carrying, and we're asking for an emergency hearing based on her attempts to hide marital assets. What marital assets? The ones she's been moving to accounts under her maiden name for the past 2 months. Did you know your wife opened a secret checking account and has been funneling money into it? I didn't know, but I wasn't surprised. Emily had always been smarter than I gave her credit for. How much? $47,000 so far. Money from your joint accounts, transferred in small amounts to avoid triggering bank reporting requirements. She's been planning this for a while, Nick. The betrayal felt different now. Not just personal, but professional. Emily had been conducting a covert operation against our marriage with the precision of a military campaign. What else? Patricia consulted her notes. She's been documenting your work schedule, claiming you're an absent father. She's got photos of you coming home late, recordings of you on business calls during family time, even statements from her friends about your controlling behavior. What controlling behavior? According to her filing, you monitor her spending, question her whereabouts, and become angry when she tries to maintain friendships. Classic emotional misuse allegations. I laughed, but there was no humor in it. She's been having an affair for 6 months and I'm the abusive one. That's her narrative. And without evidence to the contrary, it might stick. Patricia leaned forward. But we have evidence. Lots of it. The question is, how nuclear you want to go. I thought about Emily upstairs in our bathroom, probably texting Marcus about their next rendezvous. I thought about my daughters, who would have to choose sides in the war that was coming. I thought about 20 years of marriage reduced to legal documents and financial calculations. How nuclear can we go? Patricia smiled like a hunter scenting blood. Let me show you. The emergency hearing was scheduled for the following week. In the meantime, Emily and I maintained the facade of normalcy for our daughter's sake. We ate dinner together, made small talk about the weather, slept in the same bed like nothing had changed. But underneath the surface, we were both preparing for war. Emily's counterattack came on Wednesday. I arrived home from work to find her in the kitchen with Sophie and Mia, all three of them looking like they'd been crying. "Girls, can you give your father and me some privacy?" Emily asked, her voice trembling with perfectly performed emotion. After our daughters left, Emily turned to face me with tears streaming down her cheeks. How could you do this to our family? Do what? Don't play dumb, Nick. The divorce papers, the accusations, trying to destroy me in court. I know you're angry about the baby, but this is cruel even for you. The baby. She was still pretending it was mine. Emily, we both know whose baby you're carrying. It's our baby. She placed her hands protectively over her stomach. I can't believe you'd question that. What kind of man accuses his pregnant wife of cheating? The kind of man who has hotel receipts and phone records proving his wife has been screwing her tennis instructor for 6 months? The words hung in the air like a slap. Emily's tears stopped as if I'd flipped a switch. And for a moment, I saw the real woman behind the performance. Cold, calculating, dangerous. You've been spying on me, she said quietly. I've been protecting myself from a wife who's been lying to me for months. I never lied to you. You told me you were at book club when you were at the Marriott with Marcus. You told me you were at wine bars when you were in hotel rooms. You told me this baby was mine when you know damn well it's his. I pulled out my phone and showed her one of Janet's surveillance photos. This is you kissing another man while carrying his child. What would you call that? Emily stared at the photo for a long moment, then looked back at me with something that might have been respect. You're not as stupid as I thought, she said. And you're not as smart as you think, she laughed, actually laughed. You have no idea what you're up against, Nick. You think this is about Marcus? About some affair? This is about 20 years of marriage to a man who cares more about his business than his family. This is about being married to someone who treats me like an employee instead of a wife. So you decided to get pregnant with another man's baby? I decided to find someone who makes me feel alive, someone who sees me as more than just a pretty accessory to his success story. And the baby? The baby is a complication, but it's also leverage. She stepped closer, and I could smell her expensive perfume mixed with something else. Desperation, maybe. You want a war, Nick? Fine. But remember that I know all your secrets, too. Your business practices, your tax strategies, the clients you've bent rules for. You destroy me, and I'll take you down with me. You're threatening me? I'm promising you. This divorce is going to happen on my terms, or it's going to destroy both of us. She walked out of the kitchen, leaving me alone with the wreckage of our marriage and the realization that I'd been playing checkers while Emily was playing chess. But she'd made one crucial mistake. She thought I was the same man who'd been passively accepting her betrayal for months. She didn't realize that discovering her affair had changed me into someone else entirely, someone who played to win. My phone buzzed. A text from Tom. Emergency at the office, you need to see this. I grabbed my keys and headed for the door. Round 1 had gone to Emily, but the fight was far from over. Time to show her what a real counterattack looked like. The emergency at the office was Marcus Kent, sitting in our lobby like he owned the place. He wore his usual tennis club uniform, polo shirt, khakis, and the kind of artificial confidence that came from sleeping with other men's wives. When he saw me, he stood up with a smile that made me want to rearrange his face. Nick, good to see you, man. Marcus. I didn't offer to shake his hand. What can I do for you? I was hoping we could talk, man to man, you know? Tom appeared at my elbow, radiating the kind of menace that came from 15 years of police work. You want me to handle this? No, it's fine. Marcus and I are going to have a conversation. I gestured toward my office. After you. Marcus walked ahead of me, and I noticed he was nervous, sweat stains under his arms, hands shaking slightly as he sat down across from my desk. Good. He should be nervous. Nice place, he said, looking around at my awards and certificates. Emily's told me a lot about your business. I'm sure she has. What do you want, Marcus? He leaned forward, trying to project sincerity. Look, I know this is awkward. The whole situation with Emily and me, it just happened. We didn't plan it. 6 months of hotel rooms just happened? His face flushed. You know about that? I know about everything. The question is what you're planning to do about it. That's why I'm here. I want to do the right thing. The right thing would have been not screwing my pregnant wife. But we're a little past that point. Marcus flinched like I'd slapped him. The baby, Emily says it might not be mine. DNA doesn't lie, Marcus. Unlike you and my wife. Look, I'm not ready to be a father. I've got my own kids, my own problems. Ava's already filed for divorce, and she's going to take me for everything I have. I leaned back in my chair and studied him. Marcus Kent, the great seducer, reduced to begging in my office because his life was falling apart. There was something almost satisfying about it. What exactly are you asking me to do? I want out of the whole mess. Emily, the baby, all of it. He ran his hands through his perfectly styled hair. I'll disappear, move to another state, whatever you want. Just make this go away. You want me to take responsibility for your child? I want you to take responsibility for your wife. She's the one who pursued me, Nick. She's the one who said her marriage was over, that you didn't care about her anymore. So this is my fault? I'm just saying that maybe if you'd paid more attention to Emily, none of this would have happened. The audacity was breathtaking. Marcus had been screwing my wife for months, gotten her pregnant, and now he wanted to blame me for not being attentive enough to prevent his affair. Get out, I said quietly. Nick, come on. We can work something out. Get out of my office before I have you thrown out. Marcus stood up, his face red with embarrassment and anger. You think you're better than me? You think your money and your fancy business make you some kind of saint? Emily told me all about you, Nick. About how cold you are. How you treat her like she's invisible. At least I made her feel wanted. You made her feel like a slut. There's a difference. He started toward the door, then turned back. This isn't over. Emily's not going to let you destroy her, and neither am I. Is that a threat? It's a promise. After he left, Tom came into my office and closed the door. That went well. He's scared. Good. He should be. What's the play here, Nick? Because that guy's desperate enough to do something stupid. I thought about Marcus's threat, about Emily's promise to take me down with her, about the war that was escalating beyond anything I'd originally planned. The play is total victory, I said. Emily wants to destroy me? Marcus wants to threaten me? Fine. But they're about to learn that I didn't build this company by backing down from fights. What do you need? Everything. Every piece of dirt we can find on both of them. Financial records, social media posts, witness statements, the works. If they want to play dirty, we'll show them what dirty really looks like. That evening I came home to find Emily in the living room with Sophie and Mia, the three of them huddled together on the couch like they were planning a revolution. When I walked in, the conversation stopped abruptly. Don't let me interrupt, I said. We were just talking about college plans, Emily said smoothly. Sophie's excited about Northwestern. Sophie looked uncomfortable, glancing between her mother and me like she was caught in the middle of something she didn't understand, which, of course, she was. Actually, Dad, can we talk? Sophie asked. Privately? We went to my study, and Sophie closed the door behind us. She looked older somehow, like the events of the past few weeks had aged her beyond her 18 years. Mom told us about the divorce, she said without preamble. I figured she would. She said you're trying to take everything from her. The house, custody of Mia, even the baby. Is that what she said? She's scared, Dad. I've never seen her like this. She was crying, saying she doesn't know what she's going to do if you leave her with nothing. I looked at my daughter, really looked at her. Sophie had always been Emily's favorite, the one who inherited her mother's beauty and social instincts. But she also had my stubborn streak and my sense of fairness. Sophie, your mother and I have some serious problems to work through. I can't give you all the details, but I need you to know that I would never try to hurt you or Mia. Whatever happens between your mother and me, you girls are my priority. But what about the baby? Mom says you don't even want it. The baby, Emily's trump card, the innocent life caught in the middle of our war. I wondered if Sophie knew the truth, if she'd figured out what her mother had been doing for the past 6 months. The situation with the baby is complicated, I said carefully. Because it might not be yours? The question hit me like a physical blow. Sophie knew. Somehow she'd figured it out. Sophie, I'm not stupid, Dad. I see the way Mom acts around Marcus at the tennis club. I see how she lights up when he texts her, and I did the math on when she got pregnant. She took a shaky breath. Is Marcus the father? I could have lied. Should have lied, probably. But Sophie was 18, heading to college in a few months. And she deserved the truth. We don't know for certain until the DNA test, but yes, I think he is. Sophie closed her eyes and leaned against my desk. God, Mom, how could she do this to our family? People make mistakes, sweetheart. Sometimes those mistakes have consequences. This isn't a mistake, Dad. This is betrayal of you, of us, of everything we built together. She was crying now, and I pulled her into a hug that felt like the first genuine moment we'd shared in months. I'm sorry you have to deal with this, I whispered into her hair. You and Mia shouldn't be caught in the middle. What's going to happen to us? I don't know, but I promise you that whatever happens, I'll fight to keep our family together. The parts of it that are worth saving. After Sophie left, I sat in my study and stared at the photos on my desk. 20 years of family memories, all of them tainted now by the knowledge of Emily's betrayal. But not all of it was ruined. My daughters were still mine, still worth fighting for. My phone buzzed, a text from an unknown number. You're going to regret this. Both of you. Marcus, making good on his promise. But he'd made one crucial mistake. He thought I was the same man who'd been passively accepting his affair for months. He was about to learn otherwise. I opened my laptop and began typing. Time to show Emily and Marcus what scorched earth really looked like. The emergency custody hearing was scheduled for Friday morning, but by Thursday night, I knew Emily was planning something desperate. She'd been on the phone constantly, whispering in corners and leaving the house at odd hours. When I asked where she was going, she claimed pregnancy cravings that required immediate trips to specific restaurants across town. I need Thai food from that place in Lincoln Park, she'd say, grabbing her keys and disappearing for hours. She was meeting with Marcus, planning their final move. I could feel it coming like a storm on the horizon. The attack came at 2 a.m. I woke to the sound of breaking glass downstairs, followed by Emily's screams. My first instinct was to protect my family. I grabbed the baseball bat from my closet and ran toward the noise, my heart pounding with adrenaline and fear. I found Emily in the kitchen, surrounded by broken dishes and overturned chairs. She was on the floor, clutching her stomach and crying hysterically. He attacked me, she sobbed. Oh God, Nick, he attacked me. The baby, who attacked you? Where are they? Gone. They ran when they heard you coming. She reached for me with shaking hands. Call 911. Please, I think something's wrong with the baby. I called 911, but something felt off. The broken dishes were arranged too perfectly, like a stage set. Emily's injuries looked superficial, scratches that could have been self-inflicted, bruises that could have been makeup. And she kept glancing toward the kitchen window, like she was expecting someone. The paramedics arrived first, followed by the police. Emily gave a performance worthy of an Academy Award. The terrified pregnant woman, attacked in her own home by an unknown intruder. She claimed the attacker had been wearing a mask, that he'd grabbed her and thrown her to the ground before fleeing when he heard me coming. Did he say anything? Officer Martinez asked, taking notes. He kept saying, "You're going to pay," Emily whispered, like he knew me, like this was personal. I watched from across the room as Emily spun her story, and I realized what she was doing. This wasn't a random attack, it was a setup. She was creating evidence of the dangerous situation she was in, proof that staying married to me put her and the baby at risk. At the hospital, doctors confirmed that Emily and the baby were fine. No serious injuries, no complications. But the incident would be documented, photographed, and added to her growing case against me. I'm so scared, she told the nurse loud enough for me to hear. What if he comes back? What if next time he hurts the baby? The nurse glanced at me suspiciously, and I realized Emily had planted seeds of doubt about my involvement. The loving husband act was over. Now I was the prime suspect in my wife's attack. We got home at 6 a.m., just as Sophie and Mia were getting ready for school. Emily had called them from the hospital, spinning a story about a break-in and an attack that had them both terrified and clinging to her. Mom, are you sure you're okay? Mia asked, examining Emily's bandaged scratches. I'm fine, sweetheart, just shaken up, but I don't feel safe here anymore. She was looking at me when she said it. After the girls left for school, Emily and I were alone in our kitchen for what I knew would be the last time. The facade was completely gone now. No more loving wife act, no more pretense of trying to save our marriage. Clever, I said. The fake attack, the hospital visit, making me look like a threat to you and the baby. Very clever. I don't know what you're talking about. But she was smiling as she said it. Marcus helped you stage it, didn't he? He broke the dishes, roughed you up just enough to look convincing, then disappeared before I came downstairs. Prove it. I don't have to prove it. The security cameras will do that for me. Emily's smile faltered. What security cameras? The ones I'd installed last month. Motion activated, night vision, complete coverage of the house and grounds. They caught everything, Emily, including Marcus. Sneaking around back at 1:45 a.m. and you letting him in through the kitchen door. The color drained from her face. You're lying. Am I? Want to see the footage? I pulled out my phone and showed her the video. There was Marcus, creeping around our backyard like a burglar. There was Emily, opening the door and letting him in. There was their staged fight, with Emily throwing dishes and Marcus pushing her to the ground, gently, carefully, like they'd rehearsed it. And there was Marcus fleeing through the back door just moments before I came downstairs. The police are going to be very interested in this, I said. Filing a false report, insurance fraud, conspiracy. That's serious prison time, Emily. You can't use that. It's illegal surveillance. It's my house, my security system, completely legal. I put my phone away and looked at my wife, really looked at her. It's over, Emily. The affair, the lies, the games, all of it. She stared at me for a long moment, and I saw the exact moment when she realized she'd lost. Her shoulders sagged, her perfect composure cracked, and for the first time in months, I saw the real Emily. Not the performance, not the act, but the woman I'd married 20 years ago. I loved you, she said quietly. In the beginning, I really loved you. I know, I loved you too. When did we stop? I don't know. Somewhere along the way, we stopped being partners and started being opponents. The baby deserves better than this, better than parents who are at war with each other. Emily nodded, tears streaming down her face. What happens now? Now you call your lawyer and we work out a settlement. Fair custody, fair division of assets, and no more games. And Marcus? Marcus is going to learn that actions have consequences, but that's not your problem anymore. She left that afternoon, taking a suitcase and a taxi to her sister's house across town. Sophie and Mia were confused and upset, but they understood that their parents' marriage was over. We sat in the living room that evening, the three of us, and I tried to explain 20 years of marriage ending in legal documents and divided assets. Are you going to be okay, Dad? Mia asked. We're all going to be okay, I said, and for the first time in months, I actually believed it. My phone buzzed, a text from Patricia Vance. Emily's lawyer called. They want to settle. No trial, no public scandal. She'll take the house in Aspen and half the liquid assets. You keep the business in primary custody. I looked around our living room, at the family photos and the memories embedded in every piece of furniture. 20 years of marriage reduced to a financial transaction, but maybe that was okay. Maybe it was time to start over. What about Marcus? Sophie asked. I smiled, and it felt like the first genuine smile I'd managed in months. Marcus is about to discover that Karma is a witch. The next morning, I called the police and turned over the security footage. Marcus Kent was arrested at the tennis club in front of all his clients and colleagues, charged with conspiracy, filing a false police report, and fraud. The local news picked up the story. Tennis pro arrested in fake attack scheme. And by evening, it was the talk of Meadowbrook. Marcus's wife, Ava, called me that night. Thank you, she said, for the evidence, for everything. Marcus won't be a problem for either of us anymore. What will you do now? Start over. Take my kids somewhere new, somewhere we can build a life that isn't based on lies. That sounds like a good plan. What about you? What's next for Nick Callahan? I looked around my study at the awards and photos and reminders of the life I'd built. Some of it would survive the divorce, some of it wouldn't. But I was still standing, still fighting, still capable of building something new. I'm going to be a better father than I was a husband, I said. And I'm going to make sure my daughters know that some fights are worth having. Even when you lose? Especially then. After I hung up, I poured myself a glass of bourbon and sat in my backyard, looking up at the stars. Emily was gone. Marcus was in jail, and my marriage was over. But my daughters were safe, my business was intact, and for the first time in months, I felt like I could breathe. Tomorrow, I'd start rebuilding. Tonight, I was just going to sit here and appreciate the silence. My phone buzzed one last time, a text from Emily. I'm sorry for all of it. You deserve better. I stared at the message for a long time, then deleted it without responding. Some conversations were over. Some bridges were meant to burn. The war was finished. I'd won, but victory felt different than I'd expected. Not triumphant, just peaceful. Like coming home after a long, difficult journey. Sophie and Mia would be okay. The business would survive. And somewhere down the line, Maybe I'd find someone who understood that marriage was supposed to be a partnership, not a competition. But for now, I was content to sit in my backyard and count the stars, knowing that tomorrow would be the first day of whatever came next.